Welcome everybody to the Simsbury's Sustainability Committee meeting. We have 4 members present. We've got Joe Daly, we've got Tim Walzak, we've got, actually I'm counting wrong, really have three, right? I'm not very good with big numbers. So we do not have a quorum. So we're missing Bob, we're missing Jen, we're missing Rich, and we're missing Danielle. We do not have a quorum. Oh, there we go. We have a quorum. We'll wait for Rich's audio to connect. Hey, Rich.
Hey, sorry I'm late. It kind of got away from me.
That's all right. Welcome. Good to have. We were just kind of trying to figure out whether we have a quorum, and you make a quorum. So.
Oh, okay.
So you complete me, Rich.
Be careful.
You complete us. So let's leave it at that. So we are live on local TV. So good. So we do have 4 of us, and great. We've got a lot to do. So I'll pull up the agenda so we can look at that. We will start. Let me start by welcoming our guest. Let me stop sharing and welcome our guest, Thomas. I'm going to say Bonitz. Is that close, Thomas?
It's Bonitz. Close enough.
Bonitz. Great. Well, welcome. So Thomas is one of our Sustainable CT Fellows. Thomas and Sean Roach will be working for all the towns in the Capital Region COG. Is that right?
Yep.
So probably be stretched thin, but our experience with fellows in the past has been fantastic. And already we've had a meeting with Thomas and Sean, and they've already provided us some great stuff, which you'll see tonight. So welcome, Thomas.
Thank you.
You prefer Thomas or Tom?
Thomas works.
All right, great. So let me go back to that agenda. And we always start with public audience. I don't know, Thomas, you'll have chance to say stuff later, but if there's anything you want to comment now, we do this public audience thing. Other than that, actually, this is a mistake, right? It should not, it's not May. We did not have an official meeting in May. I have the right agenda here? Yeah, right? May was not an official, so I think we need to approve the April minutes, if I'm not mistaken. I think I pulled them up. Yeah, we did a meeting in May, but it was we didn't have a quorum, so it was just kind of for people to be able to go back and watch the video to get information. So these are the minutes to the April meeting, which we did not approve in May because it wasn't official. So people have had these, I think, distributed. Does anyone have any comments, corrections, edits? If not, is there a motion to approve these minutes?
Motion to approve.
There's a second. I will second this. And any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Great. So we've already done the introduction of our Sustainable CT Fellows, and I know to the point that Sean and Thomas will be spread thin. They're already represented, or they're meeting with 2 different towns tonight. So we're happy to have you, Thomas, but we'll look forward to meeting Sean as well. So our main action is to get organized, get going on our 2021 plans. So what I'd like to do is have that conversation in the context of a couple different documents. And I'll pull some of those up. The first is the list of actions that is organized on a fairly high level. Actually, let me start with the detail, and then it makes more sense. So this is the list that we download from the Sustainable CT website. It's very detailed. It has each, so it's got the categories, and then within each category, there are the actions 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. And then for some of them, it goes into, 2.1, you've got 2.1.1, 2.1.2, 2.1.3. So it's got the real meat and potatoes about what is, what is required for each of these actions and what you submit, the time frame, whether it's a only new action or rolling credit, what type of an action, and the point. So this is a great detailed document when you really want to look at, all right, are we going to do this? What do we need to do to get this done? But it's also got like hundreds of rows. So we created one that is a little more higher level. So it doesn't get into that 2.1.1, 2.1.2, 2.1.3. It just lists the overall. And I think this is easier for us to kind of work with, to look at what did we do in 2019? What do we think we can do for 2022? And again, as a reminder, our certification that we're shooting for will be in the spring of 2002. That's our third year. We got certified in 2019. So that's, we need to do it in 2022 to get recertified. Whether that action is only eligible as a new action or potentially as rolling credit. I have put in some names here. These should be viewed as sort of penciled in or as a draft. But I think part of what we want to go through is go through this list in detail, and people actually start to agree that, yes, I'll take ownership for it. Doesn't mean you do it, right? It means that you're kind of going to champion and make sure that you bring in the parties. And then the last column lists who we think we want to bring in. So I'd like to spend a little time with this document and occasionally go back and forth between the detailed one. And the other really helpful document that we'd like to do is, actually there's two more. One is this great document that Thomas and Sean prepared for us. And that is an evaluation of, when you look at all the stuff we did in 2019, are those actions eligible now for rolling credit, or would we have to do all new actions, right? And so that's a really, really helpful document that they have prepared. So let's go through that. And then the last, there is another document that the Sustainable CT folks have put together, which I think the idea is, here's some low-hanging fruit. Here's some actions that are fairly accessible. So I think just kind of scrolling with, I probably should have put a fourth, and the fourth is our 2019 report. I think you've seen this. It is everything we did in 2019. It lists in detail how many points we got, what we submitted. So I've got that up as well. A word of caution, as you know, the actions have been renumbered, they've been changed. So typically, if you see an action here, you need to add 1 to its number. So if it was a 1.4, it's now 2.4, because 1 is now equity. So these are all kind of documents that we can work with. Interestingly, it's actually easier to work together as a team with Zoom right now. If we were sitting in a room trying to all look at the same thing, it's kind of hard. So this actually works pretty well, that we can share screens. And if any of you had things to share, we could do that as well. And we will down the road as we get further along. But
Mark, if I can just say real quick on that note, just so it comes up, July 1st is when they're going to start doing hybrid meetings. I don't know what that's going to look like at this point, but that is when they're going to switch to some version of hybrid meetings at the library. They have a whole setup they're working on. Don't know what all the rules are going to be, but just so it's on the record, that's when they're going to start doing some version of hybrid meetings.
Right. Great. Thank you. Yeah. So our next meeting will be probably in the library. And this hybrid sounds like there's a device, the owl, that will sit in the room, and it does a 360 view, and it also picks up on who's speaking. So a new technology to master.
Yeah. Very fancy.
Yeah. So I think at some point I have gone through this list, and I've penciled in names. I've penciled in how many points I think we might have a shot. Oh, it looks like I've got some things in the wrong column here.
Mark,
this is
if
all-
I have a question about the 2019 report, should I direct that to like Thomas or Sean?
Depends on what, what your question is. I mean, some of us here in town were involved with those, but yet Thomas and Sean, if we got a question of, they're really the experts on the program and can get us answers as well.
Yeah, we're open to questions from anyone. So if you have a question about what we worked on, feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say ask me, ask Ray. We can get some of the stuff that we know, and then if we don't know it, then we go to the Sustainable CT folks. So I don't want to go through this list yet, but what you can see is I think this will be a helpful planning document that gradually each of us will say, all right, let me take a really quick example. Participate in equity training. This is new, so there's nothing. We didn't get any points last year or 3 years ago. I've penciled in. I think we might get 2 points, and we look at 1.2. 1.2 is participate in equity training. If we get a cohort of our town to participate in some training, right here, at least 3 people to get some equity training. Need to move this. That's 10 points. So what did I just say? I think we might get 10 points. So I put in, I think we can do that as a very least, right? It's new and I put my name in, right? So I think we want to really literally go through this list. I've heard of towns, they all got together. They had a big matrix. They had a blackboard. This is kind of our blackboard for now. So I would encourage each of you. I have pencil. You will find your names in here, and I'm not trying to commit you or tie you down, but I think Sherry, before she left, had actually produced this list of who is broadly responsible for what categories. So I've tried to use some of that. But I think this will be very much a living document. It is a Google Sheet. You should all have access to it. If not, we can follow up on that. So, but as we go through that and we see some of the old things we did, there is this issue of, can we count it again? Could we take what we did before and get credit for it? And a couple points, because we're in the 3rd year, we will be getting certification in the 3rd year. We really can't count any of our actions as sort of automatically renewing, right? So we'll need to be either totally a new action, or some of them we can get rolling credit for. So with that brief introduction, I'm going to hand over to Thomas, because Thomas, you guys produced this great document. Can you share your screen, or if you want me to, are you able to? If not,
Yeah, I can share my screen.
Okay.
Yeah, so for that document, today I made a couple of changes because I looked back and there were a few things that were a little iffy. So I shared it with you, Mark, and you can of course spread it to anyone around. So I'm gonna share my screen right now. And by the way, for the equity training you talked about, the first one is October 5th, and then the second one is October 28th. And the last one is the 23rd. But there's other ones throughout the year, but those are good dates to keep in mind if you're trying to do that one. So let's just go through this document. So you already described it. We looked through that 2019 application what you showed up, that was the 4th document. And we just looked through whether or not it would be eligible for rolling credit. And if you don't know, rolling credit means it's an action that took place 3 years, more than 3 years ago from the date that you're trying to apply. And if it's within that 3 year, it's called the look back period. It's considered new action credit. If that's confusing, just interrupt me. And for each action, there's an action type, and they're listed here. And for different action types, there's different requirements for rolling credit. So these are like just the broad guidelines for what you need to get rolling credit. So if it's outreach education programs, etc., you need to it depends on what it is, but you need to just give a date and the description of the activities that have happened within 3 years, or you need to prove that the municipality is still supporting whatever the program is. And the other ones are here as well. so we can get started into the action by action. I guess just if you think this is something you could do, that'd be good to pencil in on that high action level sheet. So the first one is support for Main Street businesses. So this relates to the Simsbury Main Street Partnership Incorporated. So basically for this, the requirements for submission haven't changed since 2019, but still when it's for rolling credit, there's additional components you have to provide just to prove that the thing still matters. Basically, that's what rolling credit is about. It's saying we did this thing a while ago, but it's still having an impact on our town. So for this one specifically, you need something like the budget line item showing the support, or like a letter or memorandum that outlines that the partnership is still happening. And as a rule of thumb, like for those types of like proving documents that prove like this is still relevant, they need to be within the past 3 years. So that's important to keep in mind.
So this is a good example, because as I was going through this list, when it says not eligible for rolling credit, that means we really have to do something new, right? We can't take an old action as a new action. So we have to do something new. So I view this as a positive if it's potentially eligible for rolling credit.
Yeah.
And this is a good example because we have an extremely active and engaged Simsbury Main Street Partnership. They've been actually hitting it out of the park in the whole pandemic. So I'm confident that we can go back and get the documentation that we need to get this rolling credit. And I think in general, that was my sense. If it's eligible for rolling credit, unless it's something we did 3 years ago and haven't even thought about since then, I think we should be able to get those points again.
Yeah, and just to make it clear, or to emphasize, like just because it says not eligible for rolling credit, like you said, that doesn't mean you can't get points. Say, because this action 2.4.3, just because it's not eligible for rolling doesn't mean you can't do another business event and then get a new action credit for it. So that doesn't mean like it's totally canceled. So this is the next one is create an open space inventory. So the requirements have changed slightly. Like Sustainable CT added a lot of like worksheets and like templates to make the certification like review a little more streamlined. But for the most part, it seems kind of intimidating when you open up the documents. But for the most part, it should be that you take the old document and you kind of just like read it and add it to the right categories on the worksheets. So there's going to be a bunch of those worksheets throughout, but they're not as intimidating as they look.
So I just want to point. Sorry that I keep interrupting, but
No,
I
it's
just
fine.
want to
No
point
worries.
out this is an incredible document they've put together for us, because you can see we've got very detailed, clear instructions on what we would need to do and how we need to think about these old points. So I think as we get into the weeds of, this thing we did 3 years ago, can we get credit for it? This is we're definitely going to want to go back to this document. And so really appreciate what you've done for us here.
And where do we find this document?
So I had shared a version of it, a Word version that Thomas had sent, but just today he sent a Google Doc version. I will share that with you. You don't have this yet.
Yeah, the Word version has a couple of mistakes that I fixed today. So definitely the Google Doc version is better. So for things like plans, this is the open space inventory. You really just need to like go to whoever made the plan or inventory and ask them first ask them, have they reviewed the materials, and like, are they still using them in whatever decision-making process they have? So, and then once you ask them, you need to get some document that's like a letter maybe from the commission or group that made it, and that says like, we still use this is still relevant, we have reviewed it, this is the day that we reviewed it, and then signed it. Or they need to if they find that it no longer is relevant, you need to update that plan. So that one is more like you have to go to whoever made it, ask them, hey, are you still using this? Can you give us confirmation that you're using this or that you've updated it? So yeah. And this one also, the inventory, the formatting needs to change slightly.
I want to interrupt for 1 sec. Mark, did we ever get an inventory?
That's the open space inventory. We got credit, right? Let me look at. I was not involved in that, but so what number would that have been?
Yeah, I can look right now. 3 point.
It was somebody else, so I couldn't remember, but I remember that there was a little bit of difficulty with that and the historic places listed as
We
well.
we got 2.4, develop an open space plan. We got 20 points, and it includes a Simsbury inventory of town-owned open space.
Okay, good. Because that'll be increasing soon since we passed that, the budget.
Right.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh,
No worries.
no, this is good.
Yeah, feel free to interrupt with questions or anything. So, the next one is going to get a little repetitive probably, so I'll kind of keep it quick. But the general gist is there's some changes that you have to make. So for this one, the worksheet, there's a worksheet now that you have to like basically just move what you had before into this worksheet and make it the right format. And once again, you need to have a statement that the information is still current and relevant. Same thing with, wait, did this repeat? Oh, no, it didn't. This is the open space plan, sorry. And this one's the same thing. Have someone review it. If it's good, then it's good. You get rolling credit. The drought restriction ordinance.
We have
the same
that.
thing. Yeah, the
Yeah.
same thing. It's just going to be review the material and have someone sign off that it's still relevant. The CT visit thing, this one, I guess if you have someone who works on that, you got to check if they're still updating it. If it's still updated, then they can describe like what they've done in the past few years. This one was wrong on the original document because the change from 2018 to 2020 or 2019 to 2021 was really confusing. So this one's going to take a lot of work, and me and Sean might be able to help with this because we basically have to review the entire POCD and figure out like,
Right.
we
So-
have oh, sorry, what?
No, I was going to say that this was extremely difficult, this particular part of it, which I did a lot of the work on it. There are several different documents that exist, and for some reason they excluded part of what I was trying to bring into it because I was referencing a different document, and I had included both documents, right, to make everything mesh together. And somehow that got kicked. So I was going to say that I'm going to need somebody's help trying to figure out how to relate it in the way that whoever the reviewer is going to see that they go hand in hand, even though they're completely separate documents. Because the POCD is ours, but we have a regional document that deals with some of the issues that they talk about here.
Okay.
And why I got kicked out because it was in a regional document that we're signatory to, I couldn't understand.
Okay, so this is for 5.1.
Just so you know, we got 70 points on this last time. We got 40 for incorporating sustainability concepts into POCD and 30 for the land use and zoning regulations.
Yeah, and there was a whole nother section that they just kicked out on me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So since we didn't get credit for those then, if we can get them related now, we'll pick up some easy points.
Yeah. For this one, I mean, I think it's really trying to get it like in the actual town POCD. I think that's kind of the purpose of the action. So is there a way to like change the POCD or add to it at all? I'm not really sure.
Well, we're in process of reviewing the POCD now.
Okay.
So it is going to be changed for certain things. I don't know. We haven't settled on exactly what all we're changing because it's not due for a couple of years yet. But we are going to be making changes to it. And that document itself also incorporates one or two regional documents into it. So again, it doesn't stand alone all by itself. It's part of a bigger picture.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll be making changes to it. I don't think they'll be made. I don't think they're due by early 22 though. I think it might go out another year.
So Thomas, that's an interesting question. If we are incorporating sustainability concepts in our working draft POCD, would that count, or does it have to be the one that gets approved? Because that, as Rich said, that's a 10-year cycle, and we're probably halfway through or something.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it's a 5 or 7 year. I'm not sure. It got changed. It's not 10 anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, we will have, but the drafts aren't public. I mean, it's not like we can use them because once we finish doing our thing, then it has to go to public comment. So I think it would be inappropriate to use it for getting points on this unless they specifically say, hey, it's okay, even though it hasn't gone through the public process yet, we'll take a look at it and include it. Because things could get kicked out in the public review process.
But at least these conversations in the working draft they're not the adopted POCD, but they could document the fact that it's still relevant. Maybe.
Right, and it'll also document the fact that we're going to be meeting with townspeople regarding this and having meetings and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it has a couple different applications in different areas, but yeah, I mean, I just need to get straight exactly how the reviewer is going to look at this so we can write it up properly.
Yeah. Well, I think that for this one, unfortunately, if it's not in the POCD, they're probably not going to give credit for it just because that's like the way the action is. And if you can't upload the document, then that wouldn't work. So I'll check though, if like discussing, if that like you're planning to have that in the POCD, I'll check if that works. But in general, if it's not like in the final product, they just say no. But I can verify with them.
But if it was if it's in the final product, this could help demonstrate that it's still relevant, so we get rolling credit.
Yeah, well, I think that for the POCD one specifically, because like they're a 10-year document and they're like, I don't think that you necessarily need as much of a verification of that it's still relevant. You know what I mean? Because it's like this was meant for 10 years.
Right.
But I'll definitely check into that about the rolling credit for POCD. I need to ask someone that. Okay. And also keep in mind that the different concepts for sustainability have changed. They've changed the list like a lot. So we found it really difficult initially when we were making this document to like figure out if it still like would qualify. So this one's going to take a lot of work, definitely. Like we can review the current PLCD in terms of the 2022 and see like, hey, are some of the new sustainability concepts still in this one? So that's probably the best place to start for that. And I can ask about if we're working on it right now, does it apply? Agricultural use. So this one, so basically this one is another plan thing. You need to have a description of like that you still recognize that the land is for agricultural use.
Well, I think we have some leased plots out to a farmer or two.
We do that, and we have the lease write up almost finalized as to how the property can be used.
Okay. Yeah, so those new documents would be great for that action. And this one we initially messed up in the first document because we just didn't realize that this action actually got moved to category 10. So this one still applies, but there's some new things. And now you need a photo of the one growing space, a description of what the space is, and what's description of what the spaces are. I guess that makes sense. Of what the spaces are and what's being grown, how you connected with residents, they made them aware of the spaces and how residents can access the space. So if there's not that like outreach component, they probably wouldn't get credit. So maybe working with whoever runs those community gardens and saying like, how are you reaching out? Can we try to like make some flyers or something like that? Would be a good place to start for that one. And once again, this is for section 10 now. And the section 10 at the moment has no actions in it. So definitely looking into this one would be important because you need to have at least one action for all categories 1 through 11. So this is the transportation section, adopt a complete streets policy. So this one also requires a new worksheet, which probably will just have you reorganize. Actually, usually for policies and stuff, they give you a worksheet to say like, give us the page numbers for where you referred to the various requirements. So it'll just be like refer to where so that the reviewer can just easily access what they're looking for. This one's another one where you have to get someone to review it. This is just to get the most recent report card from this organization. So this one should be pretty easy. The other requirements haven't changed at all. So if anyone is working with the League of American Bicyclists or has access to that, that'd be great. Parking needs assessment. This is another one where you need to have someone review it and make sure that it's still relevant.
Oh, yeah, it's relevant.
And this one also, now you have to demonstrate that you've distributed it to the relevant departments. I think that might have been a new requirement from 2019 to 2021. This is another one where you need a worksheet and another one review. That's basically the gist. It's like there's some new things where you have to fill out the worksheets, basically just transferring the information and then reviewing the old stuff.
Yeah, we have all those things.
That's great. This one's the same thing, same reviewing process. Same, oh, for the, not for these ones, one second. Where is it? Maybe it's not relevant. Oh, for this one. The benchmark and track energy use, I was thinking this one would be easier because you probably have like a process in place to do that. It's 2 full years of benchmarking within the last 3 years. So checking that, that's just like kind of like extracting the information from somewhere. This one I highlighted because in our meeting, and when Sean and I met with Mark, he mentioned that a recycling official was working with Mansfield on composting, and that this is definitely like this is already done. This is credit if you just get the documentation that proved that, like, quote, mentorship with Mansfield.
Joe, was I correct? Did Jess put you in touch with somebody from Mansfield on some stuff they've already done?
Yes, yeah, we were working with, I think her name was Virginia on that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so if you can get proof of that cooperation, like compile that documentation that shows you work together with her on this, that's credit for 8.5.
I had a question on the scoring for 8.5, because it says if we were to take one of our projects that we're doing and say reach out to one or more towns and say, let's do this together, which I think is a very doable concept. It says 10 points for each town involved, up to 30 points per participating town. So if we reached out to 3 towns, we could get potentially 30 points on 8.5.1 and similarly 30 points on 8.5.2.
Yeah.
We did some kind of a joint project.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that would require the other towns to buy into it, right?
Sorry?
That would require the other towns to buy into it and actually do it.
Yep, but it's like win-win. Okay. Well, yeah, because it's like a lot of points.
Yeah. But for that one, you can't like double dip. You can't do, hey, we cooperated on 2 actions, so we get 60 points today. It's just like if you do 1 action with towns, you get the 30 points. You can't like stack those actions, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And just for like a clarification on that one you apply it to another action, obviously. So you would get, if you do that, you get credit for 8.5 and you get credit for whatever action it was that you cooperated on. So it's kind of like that equity action, and that you get credit for both things. This recycling one basically is just proof that you're still doing the recycling. I forget the specific materials. Oh, mattresses and electronics, just proving that those things are still happening.
Yeah.
You can also, if you're doing any more of those, you can get up to 40 points. Like if you've added any more special recycling programs, you can get up to 40 points, 10 points per each material. And this one, like I mentioned earlier, there's no actions in this category from 2019, but the 5.3.6 actually should be able to carry over to this category 10. That's the community garden part. The plan, this one, let me check it real quick. Yeah, this one did not get approved for credit because there were some components missing. They had a housing data profile, but the other documentation wasn't there. So I was just thinking maybe if you had the infrastructure to get the housing data profiles available, you can maybe start a process of building a plan. But that's definitely one that a lot of towns are saying is like they're restricting action because it takes so long to happen. So, but I was just proposing that one as a possible
I
thing.
believe we have a new plan that was posed. I don't know if it got approved or not. So there is a plan of some sort in place. Yeah, the housing data profile should have been there.
It was
What
in there.
other
It was the only
documentation
thing that was in there. That was the
What other
problem.
documentation was necessary there?
Let's see here. So you needed the profile. You also need an analysis of the profile, which is like you just look at, hey, like just looking at the data, figuring out like the mean, the median, stuff like that. There's a little more in depth than that, but that's the gist. And now there's a worksheet you have to do. Here, I'm gonna look at this one real quick. Just to,
I think that this time around, we're all set with that one.
oh, okay.
Because we presented the plan to the Board of Selectmen, and they went through it, and that kind of data was in that plan presentation. So
Okay.
actually, the presentation itself should give you the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah, and so then it's just like getting the stuff into the worksheets, and you're good for that action then. Yeah, and that's basically it. This other stuff, this effective homelessness prevention, it will be required in the 2022 cycle, but so taking a look at like what you can do in this category is important for 2022, and that's basically it for this document. I
think the homelessness piece for us might be with the elderly in this town.
Okay. Are there any questions about anything I've said?
All I can say is this is incredibly helpful. We're going to be going back to this, I think. But it sounds like, Rich, you were involved in a lot of these. Sounds like you've got a lot of insights as to, where we left off, where we need to go to get. But no, thank you so much for pulling this together.
Yeah, no problem.
It's a lot to process. I'm sure we're going to have lots of questions as we go back.
Yeah, just feel free to reach out at any time.
Do you have
it might be helpful.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I thought it'd be helpful just to like tell like some of the work I'm doing with other towns, just to give an idea of like how Sean or I could help you guys out with your efforts. So we really can help with anything. One town is just like asking us for a lot of administrative help. So things like just uploading documentation, making sure the application is fully fleshed out. But we don't just have to like be on that boring end of certification. We can help with like directly with specific actions. So for example, one town asked us to like plan the curriculum of a sustainability/conservation summer camp. So really there's like nothing off limits as long as it's like in the realm of sustainability and we can help. Like feel free to reach out if you see us as a useful tool. So yeah. Thank you so much for having me at this meeting, by the way.
Do you have to have something in category 13 or that's optional?
That's optional. This is for anything that you think is like, this is definitely for sustainability, but it's not in the actions. So.
Right.
Do we have Thomas's contact info?
Oh, I can send that right now. I had it.
I think in my email, there was a nice flyer that Thomas and Sean sent that has their picture.
Oh, it's in there. Okay.
Email and some upcoming events, but yeah, we'll make sure everybody has that.
I also sent it in the chat too.
I'll share a link to this rolling credit evaluation. Do you want to take a look at the accessible actions?
Sure. Yeah, I'm just going to stop sharing for a second just to look at my email.
While you're not sharing, I'll quick pull up something. So I think you've got that, but it's on the drive too. So there's all Sean and Thomas's information.
Okay, that's good. Thanks.
It was the post-meeting doc in the email.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I just found it.
That's what it was. The post my meeting with Sean and Thomas. You mentioned the dates for some equity training. I think the requirements talks about a series of trainings. Do you know what's required for that?
So There's like 3 sessions, and they have a fall equity training series, a spring, summer, I forget, winter, and you have to attend 3 of them. They're each 4 hours, and you need a specific cohort. It has to be made up of a certain. Here, I'll pull up the requirements.
Yeah, it's like 3 people, I think.
Yeah, and they have to be. One of them has to be an elected official. One has to be a higher level municipal staff, so that could be like management or director level, and one has to be a resident serving on the sustainability team. But you're welcome to bring more too if people are interested.
But that's a 12-hour commitment, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Does and the land use training that we get annually qualify for anything?
That might be for 8.1, 2, 3.
Okay.
sorry.
As long as that's still qualified somewhere.
It's 10 commissioners from your community to a training that is relevant to their commission. If that sounds like what you're asking about, then.
Yeah, that works.
8.3.
Oh, 8.3.1, sorry.
So what was that you just mentioned, Rich?
So annually, land use people get training. We go, well, not this year, but normally we go up to Wesleyan and Middletown, and it's for lawyers, land use people, wetlands people, anything having to do with zoning type stuff.
Okay, so the requirements are a little more specific. I just checked the website. It's different from the detailed list. So it says there's different sub-actions, 5 points each, up to 15. You can send 1 commissioner from your inland wetlands commission. So that's not, and at least 1 commissioner from your planning and zoning to a training relevant to their commission. So I guess that would count.
Yeah.
But I'm actually not sure if you need to do both.
I'm pretty sure we probably did catch both, but even if we didn't, do you only get credit for sending any one person for planning? Because we send like 6 or 7 people.
It's just at least 1, so I don't think you get more credit the more people you send.
Okay. So then I'm not going to
wait.
bother with all the extra paperwork I did last time for every single person that went. I'll just get 1 from planning, and then I'll get 1, find out if somebody from inland wetlands went or one of the other relevant commissions.
The other ones, just so you know, in case it raises that, like if it rings a bell for anything, send 2 or more commissioners from 2 or more different commissions, excluding inland wetlands and planning and zoning, to a training relevant to the commission. So that's really open-ended. So you probably have something in there. And then the other one is send at least 3 land use planning and zoning commissioners to attend a training on fair housing and other housing or other housing related topics. So they're really open-ended. I'm sure you can find 15 points in there.
Yeah.
What were you just reading from? One of them was 8.3.1. What were the others?
They were, so it's not, you have to go for what I was just reading. You have to go to the Sustainable CT website.
Oh, okay. Yep.
That's why initially I wasn't sure, because I was just reading off the spreadsheet.
Got it. Yep.
Thank you for clarifying.
No problem.
One of the community energy campaign. Can you do more than 1 and get more double dip?
Community energy.
7.
It looks like you can only get 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the idea is they want you to like cover all aspects of sustainability, not just be really good at one. I think that's kind of why they have those limits.
Let me share. When you have a an item like this, where 3.10, where there's 3.10.3, actually, I'm talking 3.10.3. There's 3.10.3 A and B, and there's 5 points. So you need to do both A and B to get 5 points.
Yeah.
And here you need to do A, B, and C to get 10 points.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they give partial?
No, you can't. Sorry.
No partial?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I just wanted to mention this too. We're working with another town with Farmington Watershed River Association to like, get that 3.2, the inventory. So we're trying to like figure out. We're working with Amy Petras, who's on that commission, I guess, and we're trying to like they have documents that include the water bodies and the natural resource inventory. So we're trying to like gather those, and we're gonna hopefully send it to all the towns in the Farmington the area that they studied, which includes Simsbury. So, and then after that, there's only one more step where the town has to kind of take it on themselves, and you have to map like pollutant. Let me get the right word. It's pretty technical.
Yeah, I had put in the Frog River Watershed as a key sort of partner here for potentially a lot of these things in 3.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely interested in helping out all those towns for especially 3.2. So you need someone to map land uses and possible locations where pollutant loads may enter the watershed. So that's something to look into in your government somewhere, is to see if someone is capable of doing that or if they can gather the data necessary.
That's for 3.2, you said.
Yeah, 3.2.1.
But there's potentially a bunch of these activities.
Yeah.
Like watershed education, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Engage in watershed protection, that's what they do too. So we'll have to look at sort of, and I know there's lots of people in town heavily involved. I mean, they're based in Simsbury. There's a lot of people heavily, actively engaged with that group. So are you having a broader discussion with them? I was thinking we want to reach out to them, but it sounds like you're already in a conversation with them.
Yeah, so we're trying to we're working with one town specifically, but we're trying to figure out the town is interested in helping out the other towns, if that makes sense. So we're trying to say let's get all the information and then say give clear guidelines on what other towns need to do in that, specifically that pollutant loads map, to get credit for that as well. And we're also looking at the 3.2.2 and 3.2.3, but we'll get back to you with that for more information, because we just had a meeting today about those specifics.
This would seem like a logical candidate for mentoring and partnering.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's one watershed that goes through all these towns.
Yeah, they were also talking about, because the pollutant loads map is pretty difficult to get. It takes, for most of the towns that have done it throughout Connecticut, they hired some outside firm as a 6-figure project. So they're thinking about maybe having all the towns work through the FWRA to get a regional pollutant loads map. So that's definitely in the works. So we'll keep you in touch on that.
Excellent. Shall we look at this accessible actions list?
Yeah, sure. I don't have a lot of specific things to say about it, but it's just a useful thing. Like you said, it's the low hanging fruit. It's helpful to just get the ball rolling, identify the things that maybe you can assign to people who aren't as committed to the committee and say here, hop back on or something like that. That's just what I had in mind with it.
You want me to pull it up or?
Yeah, sure.
Oops.
That resolution to opt into CPACE, I think Simsbury already did that. So I don't think that one's not eligible for rolling credit, and because it's already happened, you can't really opt in again. But it's worth it to check with CSpace to see if there's any projects approved by the Green Bank in Simsbury. I think you just log on to Green Bank somehow and get a list, and you can submit that list and get 5 points. So that's worth checking out.
Yeah, I reached out to them. I forget the answer. I'll look back in the email. We were thinking for that one, we would do the hold a CPACE event, promote CPACE, because I don't think we've done that. So that would be a new action.
Yeah.
We'll do like a workshop at the Chamber of Commerce or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is pretty self-explanatory, but you've gone through and you've identified actions that are, generally more accessible.
Yeah. I can't take credit for this document, but someone at Sustainable CT made this for, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very useful.
Great. Well, the program really does provide great resources. So let me just go back to that list, because I did this kind of blind. I confess my involvement 3 years ago was I did a couple of the energy things, but there's a lot of it that I was not involved in. So I kind of was guessing here. Rich, sounds like there were a couple of things you were just talking about that you know a lot about. So what I would say, you all have in the agenda, there's a link to this thing. It's called the high level action list, and it's a shared doc, so you can go in there and overwrite stuff. So please go in and if there's stuff that you were involved in and you think you have some idea of what needs to be done, put your name in there and correct some of the points if you think you know what we should be able to get. This will be our working document, but I penciled stuff in and I came up with 440 potential points, and that's high level. Some of these I'm sure will not pan out, but I think it's June. I think what we should really focus on is going through, and I mean when you go through and you look at all of these, it's kind of daunting, but as Thomas was going through sort of each of them, you sort of look at what needs to be done. A lot of them are highly achievable, but I think what we want to do is kind of start to get our head around who's doing what, who's reaching out to whom, and some of the stuff that might take more time, like what was the thing you were just describing, Thomas, where I thought, well, now we have time to potentially get some people to do some training or do an equity lens on a project. So I mean, some of the things we can do fairly quickly, but I think some are going to take some advanced planning. Like if we were going to partner with some other towns, that's going to take a little organization. So I think if we do that, I think we have a good shot at getting silver again and not being a crazy rush at the end.
That'd be nice.
I mean, I would like to I'll stick with the watershed section, and it sounds like we're teaming up, but my goal is to get that done for this summer before the school year starts.
And
if possible.
I'm happy to join you all on, any meetings, if you're meeting with the watershed or Main Street Simsbury or, whatever, Spirit Council. So I'm happy to take part, but it'd be good if, we got people kind of just sort of taking the lead. The other thing I think we want to do, and this is getting into our next agenda item, is, we don't have to do all of this ourselves. I reached out, for example, to this pollinator pathway group and, made them aware. I sent them the actions that potentially could qualify, and made them aware of the potential for a matching grant. And so there are other groups out there that I think, we should make sure they're aware. And I think maybe in the context of that list, let's put together who we should be talking to. I think on this equity, this develop a statement on equity. Spirit Council might be an interesting partner there. Obviously, Main Street Simsbury Economic Development Commission. Bob leads it, I think. Clean Energy Task Force, Farm River Watershed. This water conservation, maybe even Aquarian. Simsbury Historical Society on this historic resources thing. this hold a sustainability event. I think what we did before, I think it was Land Trust had a series of movies and talks, and they were using the town facilities, and there was actually a small grant coming from the Clean Energy Task Force. So it qualified as sort of having municipal support. And so if we reach out to Farmington River Watershed, Simsbury Land Trust, I know, do I have it here? We just got something in the mail from the watershed, and they've got a series of events coming up. And if they can demonstrate, we can demonstrate that it was supported by the town in some way, right? Using our rooms or any kind of in-kind support, then we can count those. And we need to do things like count attendees and stuff. But
Yeah, for the one you're talking about, the sustainability event, there's like a template that's important to consult like while you're doing the event, just so you don't end up realizing maybe you missed like a requirement. So that can be found. I think I linked it in the I linked to the action in the rolling credit thing. So you can just like go in there and see the template, and that would help guide planning for those.
okay.
And for the equity training thing, we made Sean and I made a flyer to give to another town to like pass around the government to see like who would be interested in going to the event, the training. So if you want, we could like personalize that for Simsbury, sort of, if you're interested in that type of thing.
So the equity training?
Yeah.
So the requirement there is,
It's a municipal official, like a high level municipal official, an elected official, and a resident on the team, the sustainability team.
so elected official, higher level staff, and a resident on the team.
Well, we would all qualify as elected officials, so that's not a big deal. It's the higher level one that might pose a problem because it's 12-hour involvement.
Yep. Who might who are you saying would be the elected officials, Rich?
Well, any of us serving on this committee have to be part of another committee we're elected to, don't we? I'm planning I'm elected.
Okay, I'm not. I'm cleaning
Oh.
the task force, but I could be the resident.
I mean, I can fill that spot if you need to. I'll do the training. It's fine with me.
Yeah, and I could be the resident. So we just need a high level municipal staff.
Who qualifies for that, Thomas?
I'll see if they have a specific list of like examples on the website.
That's 1-1.
But it could be like zoning, if you're a director of zoning, or human resources was one.
Town planner? Would that work?
Neil
Yeah,
Sullivan.
it should work. It should work. Let me see if there's a list. Yeah, they don't give a specific list, so I think it's relatively open-ended.
Okay, that works.
So Rich, do you want to talk to like Mike Glidden or somebody, or?
Yeah, I'll talk to Mike about it.
And I'm okay doing that.
And this is just a little reminder. The first one, the optimized for equity, you need 3 of those for silver. And the equity coaches at Sustainable CT, they always recommend like 3 to 6 months of like, that's when you start before your application. So getting on those early would be recommended for that one.
What about equity training through like the school? Like we all had to go through it. Does that count? Or has it got to be this specific equity course? Because like I went to CREC for like 4 days.
Okay. This says the Sustainable CT provided trainings on equity. So unfortunately, I don't think that would count. But maybe it says if there's an exception on the website.
Okay. So I'm glad you brought that to my attention again. So we need, because I forgot, we need 3. So for silver, we need 3 equity actions.
Yeah. And just to answer that last question, I think it's only if it's a sustainable CT equity training, because I think those are focused on like municipality, like the municipal government, how it handles equity. So unfortunately, that one wouldn't count.
Okay.
Yeah, and last 3 years ago, we did it was the equity training at the, so our equity actions were, there was the equity training, I think, in the schools, the crosswalk, and the MLK, I think, were those the 3?
Pull it up.
So
There was one that appeared, it looks like a round table. Oh, wait, that's the wrong one. Whoops.
Yeah.
Okay. So the public schools training was one. LGBTQ proclamation and rainbow crosswalk,
yeah,
and the Martin Luther King Memorial. So those are the 3.
and so I'm reading here, this could be new or rolling.
I think that's just telling you what, like, the guidelines in general, because it's just like explaining the difference between new action and rolling. So for the 1.1, it needs to be new.
Okay, because this is all 1.1 here, right?
Yeah, I think that's just saying, like, this is what it means when something is new action. This is what it means when something is rolling credit.
Yeah.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
so these all need to be new.
Yeah.
But essentially, we could take some action that we're doing in another category and optimize it for equity, right?
Yeah. The general idea for that action, like, this is like the idea in an ideal world, what you would do is, so part of it is you identify demographics that are underrepresented in some way. And then the ideal version of that action is that you say, like, here's a list of things you could do. It's a little more focused than that, but what is it that you want to do? And then they say, oh, let's do 2.1, or oh, let's do 6.8 or whatever. But most towns will like have some focus. Like they'll say, like, hey, we're trying to do complete streets or something. And they'll say, okay, let's consult them and have them decide how that looks. So it's really, for that action, they always say it's not really about the final result. It's more about the process. So that one's definitely a little bit tricky. So we're like here to help with that one and like understand like how it's supposed to look. And there's also equity coaches that you can consult if need be.
Right.
Well, the new property purchase includes an MLK component in it, so that might, as they plan that might work.
Yeah. In general, they don't really approve actions that like have happened and you say, oh, it was equity. They're looking for things that you go into immediately thinking like, okay, let's involve as many people into this as possible. So looking back for those types of actions, just like, it's possible theoretically because maybe the planning was like, it met the requirements of 1.1 to a T, but that just doesn't really happen. So I would suggest that you pick only things that you want. You're like totally from scratch, pick those actions to apply that 1.1 to.
Yeah, right. So the property was just purchased and all the planning and the public stuff has to be developed out.
Okay. So okay. Sorry. I misunderstood that. So if the planning's right. Still happening, then you can try to do that for that one.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can get that, get enough of that done in time.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a different problem.
But essentially, any new action we're doing, we could, in theory, do through an equity lens, right? We could optimize for equity, right?
Yeah. In general, for like making it as strong an application as possible, though, you should maybe just pick like one category instead of a specific action. So like, okay, in this category, what is it that you want to you hold a meeting with a bunch of people? What is it that you want to see happen in this category or something? And then they can decide, because that's sort of what they're looking for. They're looking for not just that you go to them with an idea and say, okay, we're consulting you, but you say like, okay, we want to make an idea. Let's consult you now. That's sort of what they're going for.
Okay. They're looking for the creation part of it.
Yeah, the process.
Have you got any other examples you can think of?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, sorry, what you would.
Oh, for 1.1?
Yeah.
I can email you a couple of like the CT success stories for that action. But one of the towns, it was Bethany, they had like a race incident where some violent race incident, and they all as a town like collectively came together and decided to like do some public art campaign through the school, I think. And they like I don't know the specifics fully, but I can send you a few examples.
All right.
Okay. And once again, if those ones are trouble, like we can connect you with an equity coach and they'll help you walk through how to apply that toolkit.
And if we want, is it 2 for bronze and 3 for silver?
1 for bronze and 3 for silver.
1 and 3. All right. So I'm gonna. So why don't we? I don't think we need to spend a long time on this, but why don't we get started? Just kind of. With a little bit of the planning for, so I'm going to put, if we're going to go for silver, one way or another, we got to get 30 points here. I'll put my name in terms of kind of coordinating it.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's try for silver. If we fall short, that's fine, but
Yep.
I do want to try for the highest scores we can get.
I don't see us not getting it. I think we can do it. I think we're much more organized and we have a better plan. Obviously, those documents are going to be super helpful. And now that they're Google Docs, which we couldn't use before for some reason, they do accept Google Docs this time. Because last time we had to convert all our documents into something else. I'm sorry if you had answered this before.
On the application, I think they don't. I think you can convert them to a PDF.
So we do have to convert them. That was the
that
issue
was
last time.
real quick.
That was problematic last time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we
let
were
me check
working
if that's
late
still
into the night before, and then somebody, I think it was Sherry, had to take everything and go convert it. That's a little painful.
It really is.
Let me check if that's still. Is Google Docs .doc? DOC?
What's that?
Is the Google Doc like end thing like .pdf? Is it .doc?
No, DOC
I don't think
is
it
a
has
word.
anything.
It's GDOC.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not one of the types anymore, unfortunately.
Right.
But it might be. No. Yeah, the PDFs is probably the best option.
But we're going to be done in February anyway. So
Wishful thinking.
what's the deadline? Do you remember, Thomas?
I forget.
April.
Are you going for the summer? Next summer?
Okay.
Or are you going for the winter application deadline?
I think we did April. I think we did spring in 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. I'll look to see the exact date for that. It's probably the same date, just 3 years later, whatever the submission time was last time.
I didn't ask, but Ray, have you been doing minutes?
I wasn't, but I will have done by the time that matters.
Sorry, I didn't
fine.
confirm that at the beginning of the meeting.
We're on the same item. I can go over the basics of what we've done. I can make it work.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks.
Sure.
The Sustainable CT doesn't have the exact date for that certification deadline yet on their website, at least. So I can't tell that, but it'll probably just be the same date 3 years later.
So I think let's sort of maybe start a list of some follow-up items. I mean, one I think is for 1.1, we need to start to identify three projects.
Yeah, and I will send a couple of those examples just to aid that process.
The Meadowwood would be great. This is a big piece of land that the town just agreed to purchase, partly for open space and for recreation. And Martin Luther King actually worked on this land years ago. So sort of some of the work related to that, doing that with the equity lens could be really interesting.
I'm curious. I have cousins who live in Simsbury. Is that the like tobacco fields with like
Yeah.
yeah, okay, cool.
The equity training, 1.2. Rich, you're going to check with Mike.
Yep.
And Ray, I don't know, do you want to ask Tom? I don't know if Tom would be interested in doing it. I mean, I think if once we kind of pick a date and we know we'll have our minimum, let's extend the invitation to a bunch, to a bunch of people, but let's lock in. I think Rich, you and I are, I don't know if anybody else is willing to do that, but sounds like Rich and I and maybe Mike Glidden. So Rich to ask. Mike.
Yeah, we have that flyer thing that we could give you if you want to make that, just send it out through the government, but that's just an option.
Great.
Yeah, please make that available.
Okay, I can forward that with the stories, the success stories.
I'm going to take a look at this action, develop and adopt a statement on equity and see if that's something. I know, we just, the town just passed this racism is a health crisis in Simsbury. So the Spirit Council might have already done some work on this. So I will take the lead on that one. Support redevelopment of brown sites. I think
we don't have any brown sites.
We don't actually have any brown sites. I figured that out myself today. So
we have one. We may have one Superfund site at the gas station that's being rebuilt on the north side of town.
Okay. This sustainable purchasing. I don't know if there's any appetite for that. We didn't do it before. Inventory and promote local retail operations.
Just one second. Sorry. For the sustainable purchasing, there's one that's just have a official attended training about sustainable procurement. So that's probably on accessible action. So that's just something maybe you could ask around in the government to see if anyone would be interested in that.
Okay.
Tom Roy might know about that. I think we had discussion with him last time.
All right. Thank you, Thomas. So 2.2.1 sustainable purchasing training. A quick 5 points. Ray, do you want to talk to Tom about that?
I can see what he says.
And I don't know if there's anything more broadly that is going on related to that. A municipality sustainable purchasing policy, a vendor list. But
yeah. Hey, Mark, I need to interrupt for a minute.
Yeah.
I've got one of my kids' birthdays this evening. How long are you planning on going?
I'm happy to cut off in 10 minutes. Is that good?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, that works. Thank you.
Yep, let's do that. Because I think you all can go through here.
Yeah.
But so let's look at a few together, and then if people go through it, some of you know a lot more about this than I do. So where we are, and if you don't have access to the document afterwards, let me know. I'll talk to Bob. I think there's some, we have an extremely active Main Street Simsbury. So I think some of this promote local retail options, some of this stuff, a buy local campaign, inventory, what did I just do? Inventory of local retail options. I think Main Street's done a lot of that. So I'll talk to Bob about those. CPACE, as I mentioned, 2.6, there's an action. There are municipal resolution we've done 2.6, but 2.6.2 encourage local. Is this the one? Yes, by organizing an educational event. So if we did an educational event promoting CPACE, that might be another 5 points. So I'll do that.
So hold on, go on back to that for 1 second, because there's something here I'm not understanding when I read that. So the CPACE thing, right? 2.6.1. It says pass a resolution to opt into C-Space signed the agreement, the whole bit, right?
Yep.
And then in time frame, it says eligible for new action credit only. And then it says implementation project. You only sign up once, right? Or do you have to
Yeah.
keep signing up every year?
No, you sign up once.
So if you sign up once, why is it only, either you're signed up or you're not?
Yeah. I can
So-
bring that up to my supervisor and see if they want to change that at some point.
Yeah, that just doesn't make sense. Either you get ongoing credit for it because you did sign up for it, or it's a one-time credit and you're done with it, but it shouldn't include an implementation project and all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
I'll ask
Sorry.
about
Go
that.
ahead.
No, that's good. We can't get that. We could get 2.6.2. I will check with this guy on 2.6.3 from the Green Bank. I don't think we've had any in town. So, anyway, I will do that one.
There's a possibility on the Green Bank one, if we have some companies that put solar panels up on the roof. I think somebody did it somewhere. It's just something in the back of my head that says that
The
happened.
question is, did they use CPACE? Yeah.
Well,
but
right. I don't know. We got to find out who it was first.
I'll check with, let me write that down. That is 2.6. I reached out to Nick Zuber.
Mr. Glidden might know as well.
Yeah. So I got that one, 2.6. All this watershed education. I think there's a bunch here that it would be good to have a kind of a wide ranging conversation with the Farm River watershed, because you look at some of these things, and this is what they do, right? Sponsor or host a program, educate residents and your business owners in your community about the Valley of Watersheds. I think I left it downstairs, but I just got a list of events the watershed is doing. So I guess the question for us, Thomas, and maybe let's follow up on this.
Yeah.
You're already talking to them, but some of these sort of is specifically if there's an event where they're doing a river cleanup or something, and we get people from town to take part, and we can get their names and stuff. So let's see what we can do here, and potentially are there things in here we could do a partnership with some other communities?
Yeah. I have a meeting with them in 2 weeks, and I can ask about. I'll let them know about Simsbury's interest and see how you guys could work together.
And I'm happy to join you at that meeting if you need, if it would help. So that's watershed, open space. So Tim, I got your names down here for some of these, and if it's not appropriate, let me know. The open space plan, we had 20 points. That's rolling credit. We looked at that. So you look at what we need for that. Create a natural resource and wildlife inventory. That sounds like a pretty significant project, but 3.6. Yeah, I mean, that one sounds, did I put that one? I did not put points down for that one, I don't think.
That one can be with a regional partner, so there's a chance maybe that some organization did something with Simsbury in the past. So
Right, like the watershed, maybe run the nature center.
yeah, it's definitely worth like asking around those regional like natural resource wildlife association, just seeing like, hey, do you have any points? Because that's what this town did. They just reached out to the watershed association and said, hey, have you done anything with this plan? And they said, yeah, we have. So definitely worth asking all those regional entities.
Manage for drought and municipal water use. This was rolling. Who was involved in that before, this drought plan thing? I didn't put anybody down. I'm not sure. We can talk to Tom.
I know we have a town ordinance to deal with that.
Yeah.
Tom might be the good place to start. Because we do have definite plans and actions to take if XYZ happens.
So that's 3.6. I think we need to have maybe for our next meeting, ask Tom to be here, because he's just got so much institutional knowledge on so many of these.
Mhm.
we'll go a couple more and then we'll cut off. The low impact development has to be new. I don't know of anything going on there. The woodlands and forests. Some of these, there may be some partnerships or things we could do with parks and forest or.
We should have something that fits into that,
Yeah.
given the amount of open space that we have.
Yep.
And we do actually have an in-town forest. It's small, but it's there.
A forestry advisory committee. Invasive species. I know there's a lot going on in there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if, we've got to examine our regulations, see if we're not supporting them, embed in this invasive species management practice into our grounds maintenance practices, keeping staff, educate staff. That's a Tom thing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's 3.10, 3.10. Grounds and maintenance, maybe Parks and Rec. I've reached out to somebody on pollinator pathways. I don't know what the chances are there in dark skies. Well, why don't we, so we've gotten, I think, you got the basic idea. Let's continue to just work this and particularly focusing on the stuff that we think is going to take a little bit of advanced planning. But I feel like we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Terrific. I think that's it. And I just to reiterate, we had a call with a different hat I was wearing with Abe Hildig Solaria from Sustainable CT, and they've got money to give out. And if you know of any group that can crowdfund, they have this website called Patronicity that is set up and helps, the pollinator pathway group or a bicycle group or some group that's got a project. If they can crowdfund half of it, Sustainable CT will match. So let's, as we're going through here, think about who we should spread the word on. I may try to do, if anybody would like to be involved, let me know. Maybe a little program on Simsbury Community TV, just to kind of advertise Sustainable CT, make people know, let people know that we're doing it, and make people aware that there's money out there to be had, and might drag in maybe one of our fellows, Thomas, or somebody from Sustainable CT to sort of be on a little panel or something.
Yeah, sure. This is just a little tip for the match fund. I think that we had like a little training from Abe amongst the fellows ourselves about that, and he said that the general match fund, like just what's allocated for just miscellaneous projects, ran out. That's at least true for like 2 weeks ago. But he said that composting projects and clean energy like solar electricity, those are the two that are like they have a lot more money for, because that's some government granted thing that like the government is actively supporting those. So definitely
They're
composting.
The funders really like that.
Yeah. So definitely looking for the composting and I think it's renewable energy is something like that.
So Joe, if there's something you're thinking of doing for composting that involves money, and we can put together, you got to have 29 people or something donate.
Yes, there's rules for I think they made it something like if you're raising X amount of money, you need to divide it by, it's complicated, but I can get back to you on that.
But if you can crowdfund some money and then they'll match. So composting and clean energy.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, there's a chance the high school is going to put panels on the roof.
Yes.
Okay. Didn't know if you knew that.
That would probably, that's so much money. That's not something we can crowdfund.
No, I think that's already in process.
That might count for municipal increased renewable energy for and maybe they're an educational program or something related to it.
Yep.
And for the renewable energy things, the grant for the normal grants, the normal match fund is they only match up to 5,000, I think. But for things like renewable energy, they go up to 15,000. So it's a little bit more, if that. makes it realistic.
All right. Well, great. Thomas, thank you very much for all the resources and for your time. It's going to be great working together. I think it's a heavy lift. There's a lot of moving parts, but I think with this team, I think we got a good chance to bring the glory home again.
Yeah, thank you so
I
much for
agree.
having me. And everyone, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about whatever you're working on, or Sean too.
Super.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Take care, folks. See you soon.
Bye now.
All right. Bye-bye.
I guess we motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Take care, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.
Good night.